Thank you very much for joining us live on the Q&A show tonight. It is going to be a little bit different tonight because normally we'd have somebody who's talking about science and creation and, were we evolving, or is it something that God created us from the beginning, etc. Those are the sort of things which we usually do on the Q&A show. But nevertheless, tonight is important because reaching out to the people who don't know Christ may take different, I suppose, routes. And what we're looking at tonight is football. And the ambassadors for football are with me in the studio tonight. Let me introduce you to them. Mark Blythe, who's sitting right opposite to me. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Howard.
Thank you for being with us this evening. And Martin Bateman.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Martin, perhaps we'll start with you, just to give us an overview. The term that you use for your ministry, if I can call it that, is ambassadors football. What's this all about?
Well, it comes from the book of Corinthians, where we say that we are Christ's ambassadors. So we've got this responsibility as believers to be able to share our faith with others. And through football, we can be representatives of Jesus in that environment. It's the most popular sport in the world. So many people are involved in playing it, watching it, or on the sidelines of games. Families are involved when their kids play. So we aim to have that football as a medium to be able to enter into people's environment and lives, and encourage the church to come out of its four walls onto the football field and get involved in their communities.
Right. Now, Mark and I know each other because we play football together. And Mark, give us a little bit of an overview of your ministry, because you've been involved in football for many years, and particularly with Ambassadors Football.
Yeah, since I came to Christ age 35, I've been looking around to see how I could use the skills and passions that I have, which is basically all types of sport, but in particularly football. And I met ambassadors quite early on in my Christian walk, and I just loved what they were doing, the fact that they could use kicking a ball and chatting about football to reach people and be a positive witness. And I've always been an event manager, so we helped ambassadors to organise some national church tournaments. And in my later years, I've heard about this thing called walking football, which is a slower version of the beautiful game.
Supposed to be.
It's supposed to be a slower version, yes. It's very hard not to run sometimes for a lot of our people. Obviously not you, Howard, but a lot of the others.
Slow sprinter.
Yeah. And now it's just a great way to get alongside older people who are doing nothing, maybe home alone, but love the game, and to get out and still enjoy football, but show God's love through walking football.
Yeah. But it's an amazing sport, if I may say, and an invention. I know it probably goes back many years, but somebody somehow brought about an answer to a prayer that I used to ask the Lord when I was living in Spain, particularly playing in Spain. They're all youngsters, and it was just getting a bit hard for me to compete against them. And I said, Lord, why can't there be something out there that, people my age can play people my age rather than half my age? And then when I came back to England 3 years ago, I came to your place over at the Excel in Walton, and was introduced there to walking football. And I thought, this is it. This is a bit hard to adapt yourself from normal football to walking football, but the principle's the same. And it was great fun, once you can get the hang of it, because it's not as easy as it looks.
It's just a simple idea, isn't it, to do walking football? I mean, there is walking netball, walking basketball, walking rugby. I think there's walking golf as well, but I'm not quite sure. But it's just a great, simple idea of a way to anybody can play it. We have kids, we have mums, we have dads can play together because it's non-contact and it takes out the fitness element of it. But for us older boys, it is a different game. 5-a-side is different to 11-a-side, and walking football is different to 5-a-side. Slightly different rules to make it more adaptable so people don't get hurt, and more appropriate for the age of the people. Our oldest player is 85, and he's absolutely amazing, and he loves it, scores every week.
Yeah. You see, and it does bring back a reason for living, if you like, instead of becoming so old that we become, a dinosaur. We don't want to become a fossil. So having that exercise and the fun, and the fitness is very important.
I think one of the great things about walking football is that it's set up to not necessarily be competitive, and the FA believe in the social aspects of it, it fits in so well with so many churches' ministries as well, to say we want to serve our community, we want to bring people together. Walking football has been really designed for that purpose. And so you can you can create an environment where people, especially if they're isolated, widows, widowers, who don't get out so much, and that demographic of people can often not have so much social interaction. You come to an event it gets you a little bit, your heart rate going a little bit, you stay healthy, and you've got that chance to interact with people. I think it's something that we need to do more in churches, I think, around the country, something that we are interested in getting involved in.
What I found interesting here is understanding that there's a lot of pastors who have adapted this game and see it as a vehicle for getting, them to draw them into the kingdom of God. And Mark, you've probably got one of the largest walking football teams in the country. I mean, how many players do you have registered?
We've had over 400 have come through in the 5 years that we've been doing it, and we have over 150 each week doing some of the 7 sessions that we put on for different age groups and different days and different times of the day. And that's men and women, obviously, that are involved. So it is putting something on that's appropriate for them. And I love it. I love just seeing how you can get alongside people. I work as a volunteer as a chaplain in the sports centre, and we've got a team of a dozen chaplains that go in at different times of day, some in the gym, some in the pool.
Right.
And I was there when the county FA started at the walking football. So I went along to the first session. There was 3 of us there, and I thought, this is not going to catch on. Walking football is a silly name. You've got to change that. But we stuck with it, and bit by bit, and now new people are coming every week. But we're at the age, dealing with the age where people have issues and problems and illnesses and cancers and strokes and all sorts of stuff. And there's always people to talk to, or people who want to talk. And guys don't talk. They wouldn't just come up and say, I want to talk. But if you've been doing something together and you're having a coffee afterwards and someone's hanging around because they want to chat, it's just being there for people. So we're talking about mental well-being a lot in the press these days.
Good point.
And there are isolated, lonely people. It's always the same ones who don't want to go home. Why would you go home to an empty house when you can sit and talk to blokes about football and life and stuff? So it's really being there for those people, doing something that they enjoy.
I think I can speak personally from myself in that I've suffered depression since I was a child, and one of the things that helps me to overcome that is to play football, and because the endorphins and everything else that gets in there, and it blows away the cobwebs of feeling depressed. So it's good for the fitness, good for the mind, and it probably you don't get those sort of dementia problems, or because you're so much more active as well. Tell us a little bit more about, or have an overview of the Ambassadors football. I mean, we've got a video for that, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, it began in 1990. A group of Americans felt called to come to Europe and invest in the communities here. They were invited by a local church in the northwest of England. I always felt God must be involved when you have people from California coming to Britain to try and teach the English how to play football. It somehow worked, where an advert in the local newspaper meant that a team got together, and they had various ministries, and it developed over those first 10 years to work around the country of Britain, and then tours were made to some countries, and work started to develop. So we're going to see a little video, I think, of a little bit of the history of Ambassadors now.
Okay, and some of the video goes back quite a few years, so forgive us for the quality, but the overview of Ambassadors football. Have a look at this.
What I'm going to ask you. It's not on yet, though. Garrett, could you tell us about the future growth of Ambassadors in Sport here in England?
But we'll have 3 soccer schools this year, and we'll have over 150 children that we will have worked with by the end of the year.
So Martin, just tell us a little bit more about what we've been seeing, because obviously multinational
Yeah.
organisations that you've put together here.
Yeah, so, I mean, now we're working in more than 25 countries, and it began mainly by, you saw on the video, some of the tours that took place with semi-pro and amateur players going to visit countries, and then in those nations, local people were saying, well, what you're doing here, we should be doing, you know, on an ongoing basis. So that developed to have work in almost every continent now. There's 6 continents where we work, and quite extensive work going on around Europe and also in Africa. We have a big base in Cleveland, Ohio, where we do a lot of summer camps over this summer. We had many camps across the continent of North America. And this week, we're actually coaching, training coaches, 100 coaches in Rwanda. That's a development that's happened over the last couple of years, where a denomination in Rwanda heard about our work and said, well, we have hundreds of churches all over the country. Football is such a great way to be able to educate and bring people together and teach them about the Bible, but also health and well-being. And so we have a course where we can educate coaches and let them go back into their communities. And we've seen real fruit through that. So you multiply what you do through coaching the right people in those communities. So it's been really exciting to see that develop in various countries, but in Rwanda in particular, this week we have a course finishing tomorrow.
Wow, because our viewers are well behind Rwanda, because they support quite a lot of children, over 250 children, I think it is currently. And it's such a meaningful ministry, really, to look after those that need help. And if you, Arsenal wears it on their sleeve now,
They
doesn't
do,
it?
yeah.
Visit
Sponsored
Rwanda.
by yeah.
So it's really good that you're reaching out to these poorer communities that really do need a lot of help.
Yeah.
And sport is, especially football, is one of the ways in which we can encourage people to, you know, to know that we care, but at the same time that they're having fun as well.
Yeah, it really crosses international barriers as well. So any culture and any ethnicity, you get together. So we see that happening in Rwanda, and also back home in London as well, really, and other parts of England.
Now, coming back to perhaps every day, the families we have today, pretty much the mum and dad go out to work, or, you know, so dad finds it very hard to put a lot into the children, perhaps, young boys there. It's very important to play football with them, and things like that. So tell us about Fathers Football as well.
Yeah, it's a project that began over 10 years ago now, and it was part of our work in Tower Hamlets. One of our staff members had kids at the local primary school and suggested that we, with a bit of encouragement from Mark, actually, he was just saying earlier that to really go for it, to see the dads that are in the community often were working in the night economy of London, taxi drivers, working in restaurants, and so during the day, they could sometimes be at home, they'd drop the kids off at school and then be around during the day. And so if we could play football with them after the school run in a local area, you know, a field somewhere, then you could interact with them and help them get more confident and interact with other people. Sometimes they didn't speak English as a first language, and so it enabled them to interact with other men from the school. And we saw a really good impact in those communities in Tower Hamlets, and that's been going now, you know, almost for the last 10 years, more or less, with different primary schools in Tower Hamlets having associated men's teams playing Fathers Football together, and they have tournaments on a regular basis. And then, because of the nature of the background of the dads, sometimes during Ramadan they'll share breakfast, you know, together, and they would have discussions relating to faith when it comes to fasting at Ramadan or Easter or Christmas. We have an opportunity to have dialogue and share our faith with them. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we've got a video, believe it or not, and we'll have a look at this because, and I think one of the important points that I got from this was the integration between the different groups in the community who normally wouldn't be mixing.
Yeah.
Through football,
exactly.
they got to talk to each other and get to know each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very good. Have a look at this particular video.
Today is the Fathers Football Tournament in Tower Hamlets, and it's just bringing local schools together and the fathers from the local schools so they can come out and play football and just to meet people from their community, and just gives the churches a chance as well to build relationships with their local community.
We feel that it's always the mums that are involved in everything. Healthy eating, packed lunches, Zumba classes, keep fit, and so this come along, and I think this is absolutely brilliant to get our dads involved in something.
It's a fantastic way of bringing people together from different backgrounds, from different teams, all coming together, and that's one of the amazing things that football does, is it brings people of all different backgrounds together to play.
In the Lord's Prayer, it talks about the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. And I think this project reflects something of that. It's a way of people hanging out together, living in peace. So when we play football, it's more than just football. It's about the reflection of the values of God's kingdom, and that's really my vision for what I want to see here and why I do it.
It was a great day. It's a great day out to get to know other parents from other schools.
And we like all the primary school from Tower Hamlet, all of the parents together, and we play the game.
There were fathers who were persuaded to come it, and we love to play different schools, and it's lovely to come around here.
It's been a good day out, basically. We enjoyed a lot, and unlucky we didn't win, but we had a lot of fun.
It was a great day. All community coming together and enjoying sports. That's kind of a good activity, and we like it really to come this.
You come out from the house, you can do a lot of activities to help your bodies. And if you stay in the home and make it low, you become ill in the home. And low while you can make friendship when you come to the pitch or into the outdoor, you can make a lot of friends.
As you can see, everyone is smiling, and people are happy to come over, although it was too early. Like myself, I just finished night shift and I had to come over here, but I'm glad by being here. It's always good to get together in a positive way and see people smiling. As you can see, that is not just making kids, it's all about keeping fit as well.
And yeah, it's made a hell of a difference. Our dads are now talking to each other in the playground. We found that our dads tend to sit in groups in the playground, different cultures, but this has just gone across the barriers, and it's really made a difference to our school.
I just want to remind you, really, although this isn't necessarily your topic or subject, we are taking emails live at revelationtv.com and also SMS. That number's on your screen. Please do write in if you're motivated to do so. And any questions that you want to put to Mark or to Martin, please do make it specific and short, because we can't read those long emails. A, because I'm dyslexic, and B, we haven't got the time. Martin, so where would you like to go to next? What would you like to
Well, we're in East London with Fathers Football, and it's just down the road from there in Whitechapel. We also have another project that works with homeless men and those coming recently out of prison and the marginalised, which is, it's a big issue in society anyway, the lack of father figures often in communities and in families. And we've seen in various parts of the world, but in Britain especially as well, that a coach can often provide a father figure and a great role model for the team and the people that they coach and work with. And we're ministering to the dads, as you can see, trying to help them realise that they can step up and be good role models. And then with the Homeless Project, it's interesting to find out from some of the guys' stories, their background, and often they have a number of kids from in various places in the country. Sometimes they've been in and out of prison or difficult circumstances. And we try to help them see that sometimes out of a hopeless situation, they still have a chance to really contribute in society and have a role to play, especially with their own children as well. And often it takes the in the way of helping reconciliation a little bit and encouraging them to not give up on their kids, maybe that they haven't seen for a while or that they haven't had much contact with. And we've seen some blokes really, you know, change their lives through participating in the football, but then also the project that we have includes a meal and a Bible study as well, and that input into their lives gives them a chance to get a bit more direction and purpose.
So, should we look at the working with the homeless?
Yes,
video?
it's a Genesis project which is based out of Good Shepherd Mission, which is there in Whitechapel, and it links up with some of the homeless shelters, but also there's a lot in London, especially today. We have sofa surfers and those that aren't necessarily homeless themselves, but quite transient, and so that's what this video can show a little bit about.
Let's have a look at it right now.
Genesis Football is a project that reaches out to marginalised men, homeless men, unemployed men, and it's a partnership between the Salvation Army, Good Shepherd Mission Church and Ambassadors Football. We've seen some amazing outcomes. We've reached over 300 men.
I've been attending for the Ambassador Football project for over 2 years now. Initially, I wasn't fan of it. I wasn't really crazy about waking up early and go play football. All my friends used to come here, they dragged me along, and when I first started to play, that was good exercise, that was good like football to stay fit and to have fun.
The aim of the project is to really present a love in Jesus to the men that we work with. We find that through football, some amazing things happen. The men quickly, after running around for a while, recognise their fitness levels. Often why these men aren't fit as they used to be is because of their lifestyles. After the football project, after the football aspect is finished, we come back to the Good Shepherd Mission and we have a sit-down meal.
Very good Christian values in the group. We bless the food. We speak, we have a Bible study group. Everyone can give an opinion about like the topic or not. And ultimately it creates bonds between people. And I think in my life I gained a few friends and really valuable person.
Sharing a meal that seems to cause the guys to relax, they feel at home, they feel welcomed, valued, and that creates this open atmosphere where we've had many conversations. We find that the guys valued opportunity to talk about spiritual matters. They don't often get the opportunity in the lifestyles that they live.
It's been going 7 years now, and I don't think it would have lasted as long as that without the partnership and the support that the different groups offer one another and pooling those resources. So the partnership has been really key to the success of this project.
The highlights of the project is when we see men either come to faith for the first time or have their faith reignited. That is really fantastic to see.
So with all of these activities that are going on, there's got to be some testimonies here about somebody coming to faith or appreciating the work that you're doing, really.
Yeah, for sure. I remember working in that environment at Genesis, and it really opened my eyes to the fact that anybody can become homeless. Often we just think, it's alcoholics or things which people have brought on themselves, which I mean they don't, but actually that's sometimes what we can think. And one of the guys I was talking to that because he came and played football, and he was a really useful footballer, and quite a few of them are. Even though they don't get any sleep overnight, they still get up the next morning and actually play some good quality football. But one guy really stood out, so I got a chatting to him, and he played at a really high sort of semi-pro level. And we were just chatting over the meal, so, you know, what was your life, what have you done, and so things like that. And how did he come to be in this situation? And he was sharing how he'd married his childhood sweetheart from school, and he was about in his 50s now, and his wife had got cancer and she'd died, and he just couldn't cope with it. You know, he'd been with her all his life, you know, and still in love. And he ended up not being able to work, lost his job, and because of that, lost his house, so he ended up becoming homeless. And he said, wow, it's just so easy for things to go downhill for anybody. And then chatting more about, you know, really good footballer and stuff, he said that his cousin was an England international at that time, playing in the Premier League. But he was just too proud to go and ask him for help, which a lot of guys are, which you know, is typical sort of British men in particular, who don't like asking for help to anybody. And he would rather have been sleeping rough than go for help. And he managed to get some work, and he's supposed to be paid on the Friday, and then he was going to go that night and pay for some accommodation. And they decided not to pay him till the Monday, because companies can just do that. So he had to spend an extra 3 nights sleeping rough before he got his money on the Monday, and then could go and spend that on getting some accommodation. And it's just amazing. And there was another guy who was a top-level businessman, and, you know, when times get hard, they take some of the people out at the top to save most money, and literally he was then lost his job, couldn't get another job because of his age, and had all his belongings in a car. So the fact that he was there and talking and opening up, and we can direct them in different areas and get an expert advice of how to help, and he could just really see sort of God's love, and people did then want to keep coming back, and because it's a nice, safe environment, get a free meal, which is a bonus, play football, because they love playing football, but then actually can get some real sort of solid help, and they love the Bible study. You know, we always say you don't have to stay for the Bible study, feel free to leave, but they don't, you know, they just want to stay and sort of engage.
Yeah. So your pastoral ministry comes to alive at these points, doesn't it, really? Because people need encouragement, and, you know, they don't get that normally. You know, the Christian ethos is to, you know, to love your neighbour, love your enemies even. So, you know, we're obliged to really share the love of Christ, and that draws all men, doesn't it?
And I always say that for any church, you need to create the environment that will enable people to come and hear the good news. And that's what football can provide. And I think a key element, especially for this Genesis project, is that you don't have to be a great footballer to organise the football environment for people to play in. And there are a lot of churches out there in Britain that would be involved with food banks or homeless shelters. And we can come alongside a church like that and help give them the tools to say how football can be an added extra and something that can really be a great thing to add into their ministry as well. And one of our interns that came down and worked with Good Shepherd Mission for a year was from Glasgow, and he's gone back up north and started a similar ministry with Parkhead Church of the Nazarene up in the shadow of Celtic Park in Parkhead. Quite a difficult area as an environment to live in, but they've got a similar ministry now with the experiences that he'd got from the work in London. And you know, it's possible for us as ambassadors to come alongside a church anywhere really and help them to learn, get some tools that can mean you're not the footballer, but you create the environment for football ministry to happen.
Right. So you would welcome, if there's any pastors out there or any churches that want to get involved, would like to do something practical along the lines that you're doing, would you welcome them getting in touch with you as well to help them, I suppose?
Absolutely, yeah. We're not a large staff in Britain, but we see the potential for multiplying what we do through the local church. And so if we can help a local church and volunteers from that church, pastors, youth pastors, if we can help them to see what they can do, we can multiply, and God's kingdom extends. We're not into building up our ambassador's kingdom, but if we can build up God's kingdom through helping a church to reach out, then yeah, get in touch. We'd love to.
And that's on your screen right now, and it'll appear from time to time throughout the programme. A few emails coming in. Let me just read them out. Norma from Nuneaton says, "Hi guys, I made inquiries about walking football, and it turns out the branch near me is men only. Any suggestions?" I mean, you mix them, don't you, Mark?
We do, yeah. It's interesting. We were in 8 sessions a week. 7 are mixed, and 1's ladies only. which is quite interesting. I'm very surprised with that, but I do hear some on the Walking Football websites and social media that there are still some where guys don't allow women to go. Our guys love the women getting involved, and the women love it. They do give them a wide berth. They're very careful because older women particularly can have fragile bones, so you do need to be careful, which is why we play non-contact walking football, which is a different sort of game completely, and safe for the ladies to join in. So there's no real reason why women shouldn't be allowed in with walking football. And I'd say, look, that's not allowed. It's not right. I want to play. And some of ours are very good footballers, and they played for England and the first Walking Football International a couple of weeks ago. So we have some excellent footballers, and women should be allowed in all walking football, in my view.
Andy Raw from Coventry writes in, says, I used to play for the Ambassadors team in Bolton for almost 7 years back in the 1990s. I was there 1995 to 2002 with Tim Kangas, who was a former American soccer player. We played at Holy Harbour Ground in Halliwell, Bolton.
Right.
It was a great time. I was a goalkeeper, not a very good one, but I did my best. It was a good outreach. Football is a good way to spread the gospel. God bless you.
Oh, that's great.
I'll read a couple more. Is it wrong to support Manchester United? I'll finish the sentence though. Hang on a sec.
Before we jump in.
Yeah. Who wear a devil on their shirt, says Ricky.
Okay.
Well, we have some friends and people involved in football ministry who've worked for Manchester United in the environment there, and they used to call themselves the Red Angels, the believers that were in the community there. And I think there are various symbols and other memorabilia that you can have associated with different teams. And having been brought up in Manchester, I have to admit that I do support the red side of Manchester. So I think that if we have any issues with it, you don't have to support Manchester United if you don't like it. But I feel like some of the memorabilia and the badges that we have are symbols to just represent the team.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, people often say football is a dark world, and why should you be involved in that? But basically, the whole world is a dark world, and we want to bring some light into the dark places.
There you go.
So you just got to get involved anywhere and everywhere, even with Manchester United. Really,
Right.
you just got to go there.
Especially Manchester United need help. So that's good.
Well, it does say in Scripture, doesn't it? Let your light shine and don't hide it under a bushel or a bush or whatever, and put it on a high mountain, high places. Hi, gents, says Dot. Can I ask, do the Muslims actually come to your Bible study?
Well, we've always said as a faith-based organisation, we are not faith-biased. We are open to anybody and everybody of faith or no faith coming to the activities that we put on. And so we wouldn't ever force somebody to attend something they didn't want to come to, but there's something attractive about sitting down and looking through scriptures together, and also just being able to chat through issues that you might be going through. So in all of our Bible-related activities, we would welcome Muslims to participate, and they do. And as I said, sometimes we've been able to visit some of them during Ramadan or whatever, but they've been able to come and hear an Easter message around our Easter tournaments. And in Victoria Park, in East London at the moment, there's an after-school club that we run that has many different ethnic groups attending, and often at the sidelines there's great conversations taking place between church members and ladies and gents that go to the mosque as well, and talking about issues of faith, because we're able to, and that's one of the great things we have a chance to be able to do.
Absolutely. Good on you, mate. Blessings. Have you read the book Thank God for Football by Peter Lipson? Given to my grandson many years ago. Joyce from Newcastle. Hi, Joyce. Nice to hear from you again. Long time no speak, as it were. Yeah, we had the gentleman on many years ago. Thank God for Football. And we were talking about it before the show, really. The origins go back to when the villagers were all against each other. trying to kick a ball around and kick each other around, and some of the ladies, the vicars' daughters and things, got involved and started clubs like Everton and some of the other clubs. Can you mention?
Yep, Spurs, QPR, Southampton. Yeah, a lot of the football clubs started from churches. Everton, and then Liverpool from that as well, which is quite remarkable now when you see how much they are businesses and focus on earning money sort of solely. But it's great. It was all about getting the young lads who are causing trouble, give them something to do, give them some discipline, give them some control, get them to work for each other. And there's so many benefits from sport and things that you can bring out in chats about the game. And yeah, I mean, that great history. I mean, it's interesting that Peter found where the founder of Spurs was buried, and it was in an unmarked grave down in Kent. And obviously, since then, obviously the clubs got together and got him a proper gravestone and things. So it's remarkable where these clubs did start from.
Wow. We're running out of time a little bit. Is it possible, Martin, that we could go to one more video and then move on? Which video would you choose?
Well, I think we talked a little bit earlier about some of the summer activities, and every summer in Britain and in other parts of the world we do holiday clubs, which are football-based, short-term clubs run by churches. And we had a great year this year with a variety of clubs taking place from Aberdeen through to Loughborough and a number in London. And it's important for us then to know that the church really wants to reach out in an effective way on a short-term, week-long camp, but it's part of their ongoing strategy to reach out to young people especially. So the children come along, they learn football skills, and then the parents and extended family can come along as well. One boy in London just a couple of years ago wanted his mum and dad both to come to the prize giving that they had at the end of the week-long event, and they weren't together. But they thought, well, for the sake of our son, we're gonna come to church. And then the mum was a Zumba instructor, so the church leader said, well, you can actually do that in our church. And it turned out that as a result of the influence of the church, the parents got back together, started dating, renewed their vows, and are back together as a family. And it came about through the football club that summer.
Right, shall we have a look at that video?
Yeah.
Have a look at this one.
I'm Dave Mann, I'm Minister of Royal Docks Community Church here in Britannia Village, and we're sandwiched between the Royal Docks and the River Thames, and I've been here for 8 years. And on the first summer I was here, I asked Ambassadors in Football to come and work with us, and we've been back every year for the last 8 years. The Christian witness has to be quite subtle, and one of the things that I've really enjoyed is the way that the coaches have been able to share their faith, not in a particularly overt way, but as really good role models. And I think for our kids, they want to be like somebody else, but actually think that they can be like somebody else. And the coaches, they live their faith out in such a way that the kids see them and actually want to be like them. And there are opportunities on a one-to-one basis to share about why they live their lives like that. It's been a really powerful influence, and many of those kids will come into church. The atmosphere in the place over the last 8 years has changed significantly, really. So it's had a fantastic impact on the young people's lives.
Mark, as we were speaking to you earlier about walking football, I mean, there's something like 40,000 people play walking football in this country every week. So you've got quite a big number of those. But give us a little bit of an introduction to this next video that we're going to be watching.
Well, basically, it does explain how walking football works, and that it is a game for anybody, especially for the elderly now, which is the target audience. You know, the people who are not very active, and their mental well-being isn't particularly great, and a lot of isolated people. I mean, you read about it in the papers. There's a lot of people who are lonely, but it is the reality. You know, people are lonely, and people want to come out and want to mix with like-minded people. And I thoroughly encourage people to think about it as a potential outreach for any church, really. It's so easy. It's facilitating. You don't need to be coach for England to be able to do it. You know, you just be able to love people and get a ball and a couple of cones.
Yeah, right. Let's have a look at this video, all about walking football.
So, Mark, what is walking football?
Walking football is the fastest growing and the slowest form of football. This is pretty much what it says, walking football. Normal rules of football, except you're not allowed to run, so it's ideal for older people or people coming back from injury, and it's just a great way to make friends in the community. Non-contact and no running. So.
And the project behind you, what's happening? How did it start?
This started with 2s and 3s a long time ago, and it's just slowly picked up, and now we're just getting crazy numbers. And it's a great way for the churches and people to get involved in their community by providing some good fun for them to be able to reach out to people.
And how can a church start one?
It's all you need is a ball and a bit of space. We have them on grass, we have them in church halls, we have them in AstroTurf. They can literally be anywhere. You just listen to the fun that's going on out there. It's just brilliant. So easy to start, but contact Ambassadors and we're here to help and give you all the tips you need.
Very good, Mark. And now we already talked about women playing walking football as well. This is one of my questions here, but you've already spoken very well on that. As a pastor, because you were a pastor of a church in Molesey, weren't you?
I had the sports ministry side of the church, which involves golf, cricket, park runs, you know, all sorts of. But football is my passion, and I love getting involved in that. And just thank God for allowing me to have that time to reach out through football and get alongside guys. And you know, I get guys having in all sorts of situations. Grown men say, "Can I see you?" Jump in the car and burst into tears, which guys don't normally do. I mean, there's more suicides in the UK males than any other. It's a killer for young guys and for old guys as well. And even just a couple of weeks ago, we had a guy off work for 3 months and constantly in touch with him. And it was the walking football that actually got him out of the house because he so wanted to do it. And now he's back playing and back well again. You know, it's an illness that he's got over, but the walking football has helped him on that journey of getting better by getting out. There's another guy whose wife forced him to go to walking football when he didn't want to, when he was really at his lowest, and she kept saying once he got there, he absolutely loved it. And it was part of his journey back to full health again.
Because it's the mental part as well as the physical side, which is so important, particularly as you get older. It's all right for you gentlemen, you're still quite young, but as you get older, you lose your self-confidence and all sorts of things kick in, you know, self-worth and all of that. So it's really good to be able to do something that's physical, gets you out of that, and to enjoy it as well. So it's.
I mean, that self-worth particularly hits in when people retire. They lose all their friends and all their contacts and think, well, what do I do now? Because guys say, oh, how are you? You know, what do you do? I sit at home doing nothing. But if they have something that actually can excite them and, you know, they can get out of the house. I know guys who play walking football 5 days a week at different clubs all around the area because they just want that fix of exercise and having some meaning in their life. And it wasn't set up as a competitive sport. It was actually set up for exercise and friendship. But boys are boys, and some of them like playing competitive and like playing against other clubs. And as long as they stick to the rules of non-contact, so it doesn't hurt people, then it's fine to play competitions. Premier League teams play against other Premier League teams, and you know, Walton play against Kingston, West Ham play against Manchester City. You know, it's just amazing that football fans can play for their clubs. So there is a competitive element for those that want it, but the ethos is just having friends and having fun.
Yeah, it is amazing what you've done as well with the Surrey FA, and you're also involved in so many other clubs as well. Chelsea is a big part of what you're doing as well. You're working with them, and I know I played with some of your guys at West Ham, and all these big names. I mean, who'd think that somebody our age would still be able to play and compete with other people?
I mean, all the Premier League and Football League clubs have foundations, but they don't get in the papers because they're good news, and they do amazing work in the community. And so just by a football club putting on something for elderly fans, say, they love it. They can put on the shirt of the team that they support. And I mean, what better thing can there be, you know, to represent? I'm playing for my club. We've got one guy at Walton whose dad used to play for West Ham, and this guy then went and played for West Ham. Instead, he had it on his back, Dare Junior, because his dad, Billy Dare, was a striker, and there he was, you know, following in his dad's footsteps. And his mum absolutely loved it. Had a picture of him in a West Ham kit in the team, and little things like that for fans to play for their clubs, and is just, you know, mind-boggling, really, and it's been so much enjoyment.
Yeah. Well, we've got Lee Payne on the phone, all the way from Spain. Lee, I don't know whether you can hear us.
Yeah, I've got you, Howard.
Good man. Now, Lee, I met you just a few weeks ago, and you're a former, professional player for Newcastle United. Tell us a little bit about that and how Christ has really come into your life and made a big difference, and you want to use football as a way to spread the word.
No, absolutely, Howard. I mean, it's been a long journey. I mean, I walked in the wilderness like a lot of us do, Howard, for a long time, you know. I felt that I'd achieved my dreams when I reached that sort of level of football, signing for Newcastle United. But when I finally got there, I still felt a big void. You know, there was still a void missing in my heart. And I wanted a long time around. And God took me all the way to South America, to Brazil, where I gave my life to the Lord. And I was actually baptized in Brazil as well.
Lee, you also have spent a long time in Brazil. Tell us a little bit about that and how the Brazilians, particularly people like Kaká, Neymar and Marcelo, and people who are quite open about their faith.
Yeah, I mean, Brazil was an amazing experience, Howard. You know, I'd gone out there to work in football, met some incredible people. And what struck me very quickly was their strength of faith, you know, particularly in Brazil. A lot of the big stars were very vocal about their faith, and it made a massive impact on me, you know. It was a really eye-opening experience for me, and it certainly opened up my heart to the Lord, you know.
And there are things that are on your heart, I know, that, you know, to actually do more to reach people, especially with the gospel message, but using your football past and also working with a friend of yours who's still living in wherever it is. What was his name? I forget the Brazilian's name.
So the story with Mirandinha is really interesting. When I signed for Newcastle in 1988, Mirandinha was the first Brazilian to play in England. He'd actually scored for Brazil against England at Wembley. He was playing for a big team called Palmeiras at the time. And Newcastle were brave enough to make an offer for him, and they got him. And he became a bit of a cult hero at Newcastle. I made my debut for Newcastle when Mira was, you know, he was obviously playing. He was a big star. And became very close to him over the years, kept in touch with him, and then he finally invited me to Brazil. And he's still very active in football. He's a coach now. He's a manager. And he's at a time of his life now where he would love to come back to Europe. And we've got a dream, both of us. I was speaking to one another for many years about maybe him coming to the south of Spain and
we're just watching him now, actually. This is where he scores a goal. He was quite a prolific goal scorer for Newcastle. And this was in the 80s, was it?
Yeah, that would have been 80, 88, 89, probably 90 season, Howard, yeah.
Right. And when were you with Newcastle again?
So 88. I made the debut in 1988. And right. Mira was the big star then, you know. He was the one where all the You know, he had this big following. He was a bit of a cult hero at the time.
So he's willing to come over to Spain from Brazil and start working with yourself and training and young kids and, you know, trying to bring the gospel message at the same time. Just like these two gentlemen here in the studio.
Yeah, very similar to what Mark and Martin have said, you know.
Tell us that story very, very quickly about Harry Redknapp that you were telling me earlier in the day. About what is it makes people different who are Christians?
Yeah, obviously being out there for 5 years in football. When I got back to the UK, some of the coaches and the managers were very keen and intrigued to know what I picked up out there, you know. And Harry particularly and Steve McLaren was another one. Said to me, Lee, what are they doing that we're not doing? You know. How can we improve our game to get it to the sort of level that the Brazilians do? And I said, well, if I tell you the truth, you're going to find it hard to believe. And there's, you know, Harry's like, well, what are we doing that they can't do? We can do what they can do. I said, yeah, there's a big difference, Harry. I said, they have something that we call their faith. And he looked at me like I was stupid, you know. And he said, what are you talking about, faith? I said, listen, they believe that God's a Brazilian, you know? I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but they have that sort of strength of faith. And I said, when they go onto the pitch, they believe they have the favour of God, you know? And psychologically, that's massive in sport, you know? If you really believe that God's with you, you know, we know that verse. If God is for you, who can be against you?
Right. But Lee, I'm going to have to cut you short because we're running out of time, but because we had it a bit difficult trying to get hold of you early enough. But anyway, Lee, well, wishing you all the best in your endeavours and also for the future with what you're doing in Spain. And I'm with you, brother. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next week because we're running out of time. And thank you so much, Lee. Bless you. Just to conclude, coming back to you, Martin, how can people help? You know, there are people out there who want to get behind Ambassadors Football. How can they help?
We're a Christian organisation and we are reliant on prayer to be able to just keep doing what we do. We always work in partnership with individuals, with churches, and without that vital fuel of prayer, we can't get anything done. The Holy Spirit is a key element in all that we do. We need to have His power within our lives, and that's essential. Through our website, you can get in touch and get information. At the moment, actually, we're going to we've got a project to raise some funds for our holiday clubs that we talked about earlier as well, so people can give and get involved through that as well.
Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you to you, Mark, as well. And bless you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Mightily for what you do, and for you, Martin, as well. And to our viewers, I'm sorry I couldn't get through the other emails that are there, but you know how to get in touch if you want to support Ambassadors Football. Thank you and good night. God bless you.